We've been talking the last 2 weeks about Sabbath, the rest that it offers, the invitation that it is, the command that God has given us for it, the gift of Sabbath for us, given by a really kind God. We've looked so many places in Scripture where the Lord shows us how important Sabbath is. It's important to Him. It's important to us. We saw how one of the first things God gives us after He breathes the breath of life into us, made in His own image, one of the first things He gives to us, breathing that breath into us, is rest and Sabbath. He then took this one made in His own image and took him to the garden and showed him everything and said, this is yours to work it and take care of it. It's your responsibility. I've given you rest and I've given you responsibility. And the rhythm of that will work so nicely if you stay by my side. You know, we saw how as He was resting and taking care of responsibilities, He also craved relationship. And God was seeing that made in His image, we're built for relationships, for closeness with one another. Family and friends and relationships where you can journey together, both here and here. And He addresses our craving and longing and need for relationship. We looked at one of the main practices of Sabbath is so that we remember. That line in the song that we just sang, it so perfectly encaptures this remembrance. On Sabbath, I can look into the heavens and go, right, all my life, you've been faithful. All my life. Before I knew you, you were at work. Before my mother knew I was in her womb, you were at work, and you've been faithful time and time again. When I rush through my week and all 7 days do the same thing and just do it all again the next week and the next week, and months turn into without Sabbath rest, I don't typically remember things like, wait a minute, you've been faithful every step of the way. And so when I'm in the storm, I mean really in the midst of the storm, holding on, my Sabbath practices start to bubble to the surface, and I go, wait a minute. First of all, God promised He would be my anchor and hold me firm. He would be my rock, and so we're not going to crack or tip over in this storm because I've Sabbathed enough to remember that He's got me. And then it gives me hope to know that this storm won't last forever. Do you ever be in the middle of such a bad circumstance, such a bad season in your life, and you're like, when will this? I don't think it's ever going to end. It's always going to be like this. Sabbath, on the good and the bad days, helps us remember it won't always be just like this. But God will continue to be faithful like He's been all my life. If you happen to be blessed to be coming from a family that had given their life to Christ through past generations, on the worst of days for you, you get to call up somebody who's older than you, maybe shares the same DNA or the last name, and go, tell me again, how has God been faithful for you? I'm not seeing it today, it's Tuesday, but tell me again how that's happened. Smart Christians do that on their Sabbath, whether it's a Sunday or the day that they can find to set aside for God. They can make that call and say, I just need to hear again, Grandpa. Has He been faithful all your life? How? And then he starts telling the stories of when when Grandpa was not faithful, but God was. When there was no possible way financially this was going to work out, but God made a way. And a Sabbath practice of remembering is so nourishing for the soul. It's ridiculous. You know, we're wired to forget. I mean, literally, we're wired to forget. I was reading an article a while back that said our brains, they're finding that our brains are literally, if they're computers, they're trying to offload as much information as they can all the time. They're like getting somebody's, you know why it's hard to remember names? You see them, right? They're brand new face, new name, and they go, hi, I'm John. But your brain's already moving towards what's the new information I'm going to get from John and what's the information I got to output to John. And so that name went in and your brain was just like, don't have room. Don't make too much room for that. It's just offloading. It's just to the side. Because it's going to have to receive new stuff. And we're wired this way so that we can be intellectual. So that we can acquire as much knowledge, as much information, because we are going to have to survive. We have instincts to do that. And so we've got to be around our surroundings. We've got to be aware of what's going on. And our bodies are wired to be kind of tense. To be in defense mode and to be looking around and who's going to eat. I want to eat. Are you eating? Where'd you get that food? And the information's coming really fast. Our instincts are kicking in. We're almost in a competition. Did you ever yawn because you saw someone else yawn? Did you ever know for a fact that you weren't tired and you didn't want to yawn, but you couldn't help yourself? You were compelled to do it. And that person on TV yawned and you went, yeah, I don't know why. You ever do that? Science tells us that all humans do this. It's wired in us. Talk about our broken nature. Here's their rationale. The best science minds have rationed it this way. We are wired to be in a competition. And oxygen fuels more than water, more than food, more than anything else. Pure, great oxygen fuels us. And fuels everything. It's like the great lubrication of all the mechanisms to make it all work. And so you can see this in a couple places. Yawning. You yawn. My body goes, they're going to take all the good air. You better get some before it's gone. That's literally some of the science behind it, that we selfishly are looking out for our own interests. Oh, are you yawning? Well, I want some too. I can't tell you how many times it's happened to me, and I'm like, why am I yawning? I slept for 12 hours. I'm not tired, but you made it look so good. I have an Asian doctor, Dr. Zhang, and she's been talking about the way that the body works. And she said, you know why most people long to be at the beach? She said, we have found that you can't get, especially on the East Coast, you can't get purer air than standing at the edge of the ocean, looking towards Europe and having that oxygen come all the way across that ocean. It's as pure as it's going to get right there before it hits our East Coast and we just smog it up. And when you get it and you take in a full breath of air on a windy day at the beach, she said, you will actually feel a difference. I mean, literally like taking it in and holding it, and your body just relaxes, but it also opens up and it wants to bring it all in. And she said the euphoria that your brain starts to feel wants to camp out right there. And she said, not only is the beach so visually attractive, but she said, we're physiologically built to want to stay right there because it's the purest and it's the best of the best. And so waterfront property is the most expensive, it's the most desired, it's where everybody wants to go. And we're not sure exactly why. We think it's just because it's cool and I have a good time there. But what we don't understand is that our bodies are feeling better there. And when we leave there, we long to get back there. I don't know. I'm no scientist, but I hear those theories and I hear those musings of, I think this is the way our body is working. And I go, that makes some sense. And yet, we would rush past that all the days if it weren't for Sabbath. I live 2 blocks from the Atlantic Ocean. And I've decided to make it a practice to not let too many days go by where I'm not standing at the water's edge and just remembering. My body needs this. But wow, God, you are amazing. Told you last week about a friend who's just to set an alarm and said, Sabbath sunset, I'm going to go and watch it where the biggest sky is, that I could catch the show and be reminded. Because we're hardwired to forget. Our government understands this. Look at your calendar. We have paced the calendar. I mean, the world has paced their calendars to say we got to make sure we don't forget some things. Memorial Day. Everybody should stop. Schools, shut it down. Banks, stop it. Wall Street, that's enough. Hospitals, keep doing it. We need you. But everybody else, just hit pause for a minute and remember, people have given their lives so I can breathe free. If I don't have that day, sort of handheld over to the place of remember, somebody does it for me and kind of spoon feeds me to say, this is good for you, remember. I forget. July 4th, this really happy day, and we shoot off these fireworks to be like, we're free. Remember what it's like to be in chains. Remember what it's like when another country owns you and tells you what to do and keeps you in a box and demands money from you but doesn't give you any of the services that. Remember, it's awesome to live free. Stop. Get a hot dog. Go to a parade. See a firework. Shoot some fireworks off in your backyard. Light someone on fire. It's great to be free. Remember, President's Day. I can't tell you as a youth pastor how many kids were like, this is like a get out of school free day. It makes no sense. On this random February Monday, we're going to run around going, Happy President's Day. Dude's been dead for 300 years. Who cares? And the petulance and immaturity of youth is spilling out. Sure, who cares? The founding fathers who literally laid the groundwork for the greatest nation that's ever been around to give everyone an equal opportunity to go pursue exactly the free thought that they'd like to pursue. Yeah, who cares? You're right. And as they grow, they go, oh, wow, that's amazing. If you're not sure, young ones, there's a 7-part series called John Adams. Get out of the library sometime, watch it with your family, and watch what these dudes living in Quincy, Massachusetts, before it was named Quincy, Massachusetts, but it's who they're named after. You look around and you go, what selfless sacrifice, what smart ingenuity, what unbelievable dedication happened here so that I can decide to light myself on fire with some crazy fireworks or not. I'm free. Wow. I'm not probably on Tuesday going to give much thought to that, but in February, the government says, I want you to remember this. There's things happening that are so much bigger than you. There's things happening that went on way before you'll ever be here, and I don't want you to go through life just going, who cares? And when you attach yourself to this deep-rooted thing, it matures you, it grows you. Thanksgiving, a worldly holiday. The world actually recognizes, wow, we should give thanks for all this goodness. Now, people without the Lord, I'm not sure how that looks. Did you ever go to a Thanksgiving celebration of non-Christians? They look at each other and they're like, thank you, thank you. Did you go to the store? Thank you. They walk out of Stop and Shop and go, thank you. But people of faith understand why we put that Thursday in November, not because we need it like a weekday football fix. We actually needed somebody to go, stop for a minute, shut it all down. Thank you. This is amazing. I put a seed in the ground and I don't know what happened, but later in the summer, I'm eating dinner off of that seed. How did that happen? Thank you. 9/11, Veterans Day. We've organized a calendar for stops, like hard stops in your weeks. Well, wait a minute. Labor Day. Kids all the time are like, it's weird because I don't go to work and it's Labor Day. I don't understand. It's to honor those who really cared about a fair wage, treating people kindly and fairly, and would trade and come up with a commerce system that would be equal and fair and give everybody an opportunity to prosper and get their needs met, and then open up the door for opportunity to others. That was the whole point. And if you don't stop once in a while, you forget. And you just go, man, I wish I made more money. Minimum wage, it's only $15. I need like 27. And we become very ungrateful. We've talked before, you've seen me wear grateful paraphernalia. We've talked about grateful. If I'm baptizing somebody, sometimes I'll rock that gear that's like, oh my word, I'm so grateful. Some people in this room here went to a camp this summer and the theme was just, dude, I'm so grateful. But you know when you don't share gratitude? When you're plugged in, when you're on a mission, when you got that to-do list and you're locked and loaded and you're killing it. You're just on mission and you're doing your thing. You know, when you don't share your gratitude, when you're rushing, you're behind schedule and oh my gosh, I got to get there and oh, how am I going to get, and you're just anxious about all the things and you go, well, yeah, I'm sure, I don't have time to count my blessings. I don't have time for that. Sabbath, this gift was given to us to stop. And it's weird how so quickly in a worship service, I could watch your faces change and you could get on board with, right, oh my word, all my life you've been faithful. All my life you've been so, so good. It only took a few minutes for somebody to remind you, but you decided to enact your Sabbath practice today and you got up and you came in. There's no magic to that. You're not going to heaven because you showed up in church today. That's not how this commerce works with God. But what you did was you pushed pause. Because Scripture says on the seventh day, push pause and make it different. And in that different, you received your blessing. You started to receive your new perspective. Looking at things from a different angle. Remember last week I'm hanging over the stairs going, look at worship from here. Changing your perspective from the other 6 days, and you slow down and you fill your lungs with this great air that God has given us, and we go, wow, wow, wow. You know, we were listing off some Sabbath practices. There are more that I've been receiving, more that I've been hearing from many of you. One wrote, Pastor, Sabbath, I've decided to be fully present with the people that I love. For some, that meant they shut off their phone. They just put it off. Stays on the charger. I'll pick it up tomorrow. But I'm right here. I'm not like, yeah, oh, no, I just, give me a minute. Yeah, no, I hear that. I totally hear that. Just if you 1 second, I'm just going to finish this and then, yeah, what were you saying? No. They said, on Sabbath, I decided to be fully present. What if roommates just decided, hey, on Sabbath, let's actually be together for a minute. Let's talk about life. Let's pray together and just be present. What if siblings did that? What if spouses did that? What if a dad and a kid did that? Or a child to their Heavenly Father and just said, you literally have my complete attention. Sabbath is a space that's intended for you to just carve out extra time where you could be fully present. Connecting with Sabbath keepers is just so good. It's so good. You'll see around the building, you'll see these blue forms. And I just talk about the small groups that we're going to start next week. There's all kinds of groups. And you know what it says under that? Get connected. I don't care what age you are, what gender. I don't care where you are in your spiritual journey. You haven't begun a spiritual journey and your friend just said, hey, come. And so here you're sitting here. You can get connected here. You've been walking with the Lord for 60, 70 years and you can get connected here because part of our Sabbath journey is to be reminded that God didn't think it was a great idea for us to be alone. And God didn't give us some of these tasks, some of these challenges, or even just, we don't have to live in a broken world by ourselves, but no, we get upholded by other people. When you link arms with people, you're stronger. But when you start to fall, they hold you up. When they start to fall, you assist them there. And in that is an intimacy and a brotherhood, a sister, a camaraderie, an intimacy that is awesome. And you start to link into chains that can't be broken. And you move your life into a rhythm that's just so cool. Is it magical to sit for an hour, 45 minutes after the service? Sit with maybe what will start off as strangers and just share your prayer requests or look at another Bible study. Didn't we just hear Pastor do a Bible study? I mean, how many Bible studies do I need? I get it. But we're supposed to sort of journey together. In 2019, my observation, and certainly my ministry partners and compatriots are looking and saying, in each church, we're seeing the same thing. In 2019, it is really the challenge to get people face to face and connected with each other. And the one thing in creation God noticed as he was going along, remember when he was creating, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good. The plants, the sky, the sun, the moon, oh my word, I made man in my own image, this is great. Wait a minute. It's not good for us to be alone though. And so one of those places that we'll just encourage you to hang around a little bit. We'll encourage you if you're bringing children or teens to send them out of worship then and to connect with one another. Because surrounding yourself with Sabbath keepers is amazing. It's just amazing. I was raised around Sabbath keepers once my parents became Christians. My parents just made sure this happened. And they said, let's go to church. Let's go a little early and connect with some people. Let's stay a little late and kind of linger and talk with some people. And we might even invite them over to the house, or we'll get invited over. And then we'll spend so we went from like 8 in the morning till now it's like 1 in the afternoon. Now I'm at somebody's house at 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Then we had Sunday night service and they would bring me back. The teen choir might have a practice and bring me back. Afterwards, Donnie Sauter and I went to the same church. So Donnie might look around and go, Pizza Hut? Shouldn't we go to Pizza Hut? That was back when there was a hut to go to. It was like an actual hut. And they brought these pitchers of like Coke. And we're like, wow, that's great. And we all brought like $1 because we had no money. We're like, hey, if you get a cheese pizza, could you cut that in like 16 little slices? And that pitcher, could you also bring multiple cups of ice water and keep them coming too? And we get like a sip of Coke and a bite of pizza and kick in our $1. And all of a sudden I'd realize it's like 9 o'clock and I've been Sabbathing with Sabbath keepers for hours throughout the day. And I got to tell you, nobody around that table or in that youth group walked away from church feeling like, yeah, I just didn't really connect with anybody there. Like, we just kept the Sabbath together. Some of it was worship. Some of it was a nap. I remember going over to a friend of mine's, Jeff Cook's house, and his mom sometimes would just start pulling the shades. We're watching the football game. Hey, what are we doing, Miss Cook? Well, it's nap time. I just fade the game out. You can watch it. We're just going to keep the noise down. And we just start dozing off on the couch, and she blessed it. My wife, don't call her at 3:30 p.m. on a Sunday. She's probably already been in church, and she's probably already led her small group, and then she's probably already fixed a meal for whoever wanted to come through. And then, in great Caldwell fashion, she looks at the clock and goes, okay, time for you guys to go. And at about 3:30, she looks over and she said, this is my favorite part. She says it like it's new for her, like a brand new thing, like a brand new idea. She goes, hey, you know what? I think I'm tired. I'm going to go lay down. 3:30 p.m. every Sunday for the past 27 years. No matter where we are, on vacation, or the church service could have gone long. And at about 3:30, she'd be like, well, this is great revival, but I'm going to go lay down for a little bit. And she doesn't miss. Her body is in a Sabbath rhythm. She's figured it out. She's pretty good at preparing for worship, though. Ask you and your family, what is it that we could start to do that would prepare me better for worship? I told you last week that Pastor Metcalf challenged me to go to bed a little earlier on a Saturday night because that day was going to be different. And so maybe my Sabbath, I should start thinking about it at about sundown on Saturday to get ready to really fully embrace rest. And I thought that was odd. Go to bed early so I could rest more and be ready for more rest. And the truth is, he wasn't wrong. I knew some people, they call me and they say they get up extra early on a Sunday because they love getting ready in the morning, not for work, not for school, not because they have to. Every other day it's slap something on, lipstick, blow my hair, on the tee, got to commute, got to get on the bus, got to go to school. But on Sunday they get up early and they put on music. They get a cup of tea. They try on different outfits and they're like, I don't know about it. Oh, yes, that's the one. They take their time. They put out something Saturday night and they get ready for it. Not because it's all about adorning you, but just the enjoyment of being prepared to meet their family and the church family and their God. And it's different for them. And they like it. But they have to prepare and get up early to enjoy that. There's a school that we live in that my parents sent me to, right here, Eastern Nazarene College, and they sent me there intentionally. And one of the main reasons, one of the key reasons was they keep Sabbath there. And it's a rhythm that's healthy and it honors God. And so they knew when I came, and if I was going to play a sport, the coach wasn't going to say, oh yeah, we're going to have Sunday practice. They said, no, we don't practice on Sundays. We're not going to schedule like intentional regular games on a Sunday. No, we have a rhythm. The librarian just would say, late Saturday night, finish up, and we'll see you on Monday. And I had not known this as a freshman. And so the first time I heard that, I was like, oh, what do you mean Monday? Are you sick tomorrow? She goes, it's Sunday. The library's not open on Sunday. I said, oh, well, I'm in big trouble. I got a lot of work to do. I was really counting on this place being open. She goes, no, we don't. No, 6 days we work. And one day, I give my staff off. And we were in a rhythm there that was healthy for us. I have a friend, though, I told you, who played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he had work on the Sabbath. When you're in the NFL, you don't really get a chance to tell your coach, I'm just not available on Sundays. That's not going to work for me. If we have a Monday game or a Thursday game, I'm in. But the Sunday game is going to be a problem for me. So he had to rework his week and his Sabbath rhythm. And this man grew to fall in love with Jesus Christ, and he grew to protect and nurture his Sabbath rhythm better than anybody else because he really had to be intentional about it. On Sundays, we could spoon feed it, but for him, he had to seek it and find it, protect it, and nurture it. And I didn't know, but all the while in my teenage years, watching him do this, and he stood out like a sore thumb because he's literally almost 400 pounds. He's an offensive lineman. He's 6'8". He's just humongous. And he played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 80s. You had to be a man to play on that team because you had to play in bright orange and white. And the Buccaneer was a pirate, but it wasn't like a tough-looking pirate. It was like the pirate from Pirates of Penzance. And they had these feathers and these long caps. And I'm like, well, does your pirate have a cape? What is that? It's a Buccaneer? And he's like, yeah, you got a problem with that? I was like, no, Rob, you good? It's tough. And he would say, hey, I got a Sabbath, and I got to make it happen. Now, you will see the worship team coming because sometimes we got to work so that the rest of us can Sabbath. So for me, Fridays, I got to carve that out. Because if I don't, I'm no good for you. I'm certainly no good for the kingdom. My favorite Sabbath practice happened because of praise. In Acts, you will see Paul and Silas. And this girl is a fortune teller. She's possessed by a spirit. And the owners of this girl are making a lot of money on her. She can tell people's future. And she looks at them and says, you should listen to these men. They serve and are pointing you to the Most High God. And she starts yelling this for 3 days. Finally, Paul turns around and goes, Spirit, get out. I'm sick of this. And it leaves. And she's quieted. The owners are mad. There goes my money. So they bring them into the town and they stir up a riot, and they end up beating them, flogging them, whipping them, stripping them naked and throwing them in jail. And you got to think, at that point, Paul and Silas are like, how did we get here? And I wake up this morning thinking that some crazy girl was going to be talking about our testimony, and I was going to get so annoyed that I was going to cast out a demon, and now I'm naked, bloody, and chained. And yet there they were. But their Sabbath practices kicked in. And the Bible says, and at about midnight, they were singing praises to their God. Their storm was happening. Their circumstances lousy. But their Sabbath practice, the rhythm that they were in, they knew what to do. And they shouted their praise. And you know what God does? He's drawn to the praise of his people. In heaven, he sits on the throne of praise. We lift him up. And he sits down and says, I'm going to camp out right here. And an earthquake happens. The chains fell off. The doors opened up. They had ministry opportunities and could lead the jailer to Christ, and he led them to the family, and things took off. And when God is praised, When God has given our full attention, regardless of our circumstances, chains are broken, lives are freed, things change. Our communities are changed, our kids are changed, our marriages are changed. But not in a hurry, and not in a rush, not in our sprinting, and usually not even in our doing. Sabbath allows you to be. So one friend wrote in and said, Stretch, what I do is each Sunday I come into church and I have a piece of paper, and all week I've been writing, or if I've forgotten, I'm reminded to be here and I just start writing my worries. What am I freaking out about? What's got me all anxious? What would I change right now if I could? He starts writing. And says, I go to my church and I just bring it up and I just leave it on the altar. And my Sabbath practice, as she's been doing now for a couple of years, she said, it's so freeing to sit there and go, why am I freaking out about all these things? I can't even control most of these things. I'm going to toss it over to God. And every seventh day, she's confronted with him. And she's got to do it. And then she says, then I go to the other side of the altar. I take another piece of paper and I just write out, I've released my worries. Now, Lord, receive my praise. And some days it's really easy because things are great. Some days it's really hard because I'm freaking out. But in both those practices, freedom, obedience, intimacy happens. So, I just thought it was a good idea. I got a jar over there that says, releasing my worries. You've got paper, right if you're on the end of a pew, look there, you might have some paper there. What's cool about this paper is you can be semi-private. You can write your stuff out and then it folds. Just fold it. You can ball it up. You can rip it up. I don't care what you want to do. But maybe you might want to just come and just drop it in to go, I just physically want to let you know, Lord, I'm not freaking out anymore. You've got this. You've got me. I'm yours. And maybe you want to make a trip over there, or maybe you want to rip the card where it folds just in half and write some of the praises, because God draws near when his people go, you're amazing, because he is amazing. So during this song, you are free to move about this sacred space. Maybe you want to write some of that down. Maybe you want to take it home with you and use it for next week. I'm going to keep these jars up for a while. I'll just keep them up for next month. And just receive the peace of Sabbath. He says, give me your worries. I'll give you peace. Show me your praise. Oh, I'll come close. James 4, verse 8. Submit yourself to God. Resist the devil, he will flee. If you draw near to me, you will find I'm already drawing near to you. So as we sing, I want you to write out some of your worries or maybe some of your praises. And at some point, move forward. We'll close with a benediction, and then you're welcome, all of you, to come and join us outside for a picnic.